Anytime you get asked to remove an object, to paint something out, or just do general image cleanup, it's best to do that usually on a denoised version of this original footage here. So the problem is when you're done doing that, especially if you painted on a still frame, you want the original detail, the original grain back in. So that's what today's tutorial is all about. It's about how do we denoise something, clean it up, and then add the original grain back in. And actually it's going to be an offset version of that. So let's take a look. I'm in DaVinci Resolve Studio 20 over here. This is the Fusion page if you're new to it. But if you want to actually follow along, this footage is just Rec 709 footage. It's me doing another tutorial. But the idea is we're gonna remove this Apple logo, and you can get the footage to play along with. It's at creativevideotips.com by joining my cutting club. And it's a way you can help support the channel for all these free YouTube tutorials that show all these pro secrets. So if I hit R for red channel, it's important to know that all footage has noise in it. I'm gonna start with just using the built-in noise reduction tool that's built right into DaVinci Resolve. It's called noise reduction. It's the exact same one that's on the color page. And we'll use it in faster mode because I want this tutorial to move fast. It's about how do we extract the noise so we can add it later on. So I'm going to increase the threshold here on my temporal just a little bit. You can see looking at the red channel. By the way, to change channels you can do it here or just hit the shortcuts R, G, B. But even after increasing the temporal threshold, the spatial is what's really going to do this to sort of smooth that out. So that if you need to clean up in Photoshop using AI or however you want to get rid of that noise, it looks like we've pretty much taken care of most of it there. So I might increase this just a little bit more. I'm just using faster mode for this so we can get things moving along. It is destroying some details, I will tell you that. But if you want better performance and to use a different mode, you can always right-click the noise reduction node, say cache to disk, enable lock cache, lock branch, that's what I do. Hit pre-render, and it goes through and caches those out to your temporary disk cache so that it's not actually having to calculate that from now on. All right. So I'm gonna hit C for color. The next step we need to do in this whole process is make linear versions of this so that when we're doing our channel booleans math, that's how we're actually gonna extract the noise. We're gonna be able to do the math properly. So to get linear versions of the footage, after the noise reduction tool, I'm going to hit Shift Space and look for the gamuts tool. Actually, it's a good thing to point out, my project settings right now, I'm not doing this color managed. I'm using just regular DaVinci YRGB. Right, so now that that's said, the gamut tool is one of those that allows you to remove gamma with just a nice little checkbox. I use this for 709 footage. I use Cineon Log for log footage. They're basically doing the same function for me. So if you've seen other tutorials where I had log footage, that's why I use that. So you can see the source space is saying this is 709, and it's just removing the gamma. That's all this is doing. And just like other tutorials I've shown, you want to click this little waffle button to add the viewing LUT on so we can see it properly. This is the gamut view LUT, and it's set, if you hit edit, to output to my sRGB monitor, adding the gamma. So this is just for viewing purposes only. Now at the end of the flow, I want to take this gamut and say Command C, Command V. Before I render this out, we need to put this back into a 709 transfer function. I don't want to leave it linear for my editor. So on the one that, before we go to the media out, I'll just come over here to this tool and say we're going to add the gamma instead of removing it. So this should look the exact same as this, and it does. So the only difference is, there's no noise on this one. Now, the next step I need to do is I need to get a linear version of the original footage so I can do some channel booleans math to do the comparison. So if I take this guy right here, this is getting us into linear off the noise reduction footage. I'm going to make a copy of it, Command C, click, Command V. That little click just lets the node sort of poop out exactly where you clicked last. And this one's going to be pulling right off the original footage. So this is a linear version of the original footage with the noise. And here's my denoised version. So how do we extract this noise to be separate? We use channel booleans to do that because there's a subtraction mode built in. But we're not quite there yet. We got to do the image cleanup first. And we do the image cleanup on the denoise plate. It's going to be a super, super quick removal because one, it's super simple. And two, you came for the noise reduction, not image cleanup. So I'm going to hit Shift Space, and I'm going to use the patch replacer tool. Is an amazing tool because of this fill-in method called blended clone. Very simple tool to use in DaVinci Resolve Studio. The idea is there's a source side and it's pointing to the destination of where it's basically doing its blended clone. So you want to get these as close, as realistically as possible for lighting changes and that sort of stuff. But if you take a look here, I mean, the thing's gone now. If you take a look at the result, I didn't really have to do anything, but we've lost all those details. So we don't want to just send this out. We want to put the noise back in the entire image. And the reason I'm showing this technique, I mean, yes, I could have done this without noise reduction on this specific one, is because if you're doing little tiny cleanups, especially on frame holds and still frames across a big entire plate, it's nice to be able to just re-noise the entire thing and be done with it. So how do we extract the noise pattern? We've got an original noise right here. We've got a denoise. We're going to use channel booleans. Let's take a look at that in the next chapter. Okay, channel booleans. I'm going to click so I can tell DaVinci Resolve Fusion where I want to place the node. Shift space, and we'll type BOL. Make sure you get the one with the S. And the operation is going to be subtract first. And the alpha channel, we're not going to do nothing with that. So operation subtract. What are we subtracting? We're taking the original footage and we're going to subtract the denoise version. Or if you think of frequency separation, you always subtract the blurrier version. So we're subtracting, which is going into the green input of this, the denoise version. And you take a look at this in the flow, you can't really see a whole lot quite yet. But if I hold on the waffle button, the view button, and I gamma up, you can see, oh, look, we got all this noise that's dancing around. And part of the reason I did the noise reduction with faster, not better, is because you can actually see the detail we had lost. And we basically had lost this Apple logo, but more importantly, you can see the noise pattern on the object, or the pattern we removed, is totally different. You can see the noise in here is much smaller because it was brighter than the area around, which was darker. And that's just how compression and noise works. It has a bigger noise usually on the darker areas. So if I just add this back on, we're actually going to get this imprint of this grain back onto the image, which for most people, if there's not a lot of scrutiny to the work, might be fine. So I'll show you that first, but then we're going to take a look at actually how do we offset the noise so that we use a different section of noise, a different section of the original noise back onto the image. The way we close the loop on this channel booleans is first we did a subtract. I'm going to do a Command C. I'm going to click down here, Command V to get a paste of it. And the operation of this one's going to be add. So you can also do this with the merge node, but I think this is just easier to understand. Channel booleans subtract, channel booleans add. So what are we going to do? We're going to take our original cleanup image, our denoise plate. This could be tons of cleanup on an image. That'll go into our main input of channel booleans, and we're going to add our grain on top of it. And so you can see we've added grain back on, but we've also added on all of that detail there, the different grain that was originally, subtracted. We got the little, imprint there of the Apple logo. That's not super professional. So how do we offset this grain? We're going to use actually a technique that I kind of stole from Flame called a front source. And now I'm going to use a merge node to do that. So the way it's going to work is we're actually going to move. I'm going to increase the gamma here so you can actually see the grain really good. I'm going to move and select a different patch of grain from maybe here, maybe there, to replace the section of grain where the Apple logo was. And so the way I'll do that is after this channel booleans, this is the one that has extracted, the subtract one, shift space, MRG, and I'm going to hit a option that makes a little dot connector. And we're going to do something that you may have never done with the merge node before. I'm going to feed this into the background and the foreground of it. And the reason why is because I'm actually also going to use the transform functions of the merge node to slide it along, but restrict it to a mask, restrict it to a matte that I'm going to make. So I'm going to grab a B-spline from the tools up there, and I'm going to draw by just clicking. I always do this before I connect mask, by the way. I'm going to click a hard mask around the Apple logo, close it up. I'm actually going to right click over here and remove the polyline so I don't actually automate like keyframe. So if I go to another frame, it's not going to, and I move this around and I start, I'm holding option, by the way, to grab the nearest. I'm not actually animating this between frames. That's one reason I always turn that off. But now with this connected into the mask input, this mask is affecting the green foreground of this merge. So what I can effectively do is click on the merge, and then I have a transform control, which is going to move the center of just the green part. And this is going to allow me to, you'll notice, let's actually take a look at the merge. Let me reset that. So you can see me doing this in action. I can pick a different section of that grain pattern and replace that. So if I want this grain pattern, I want that grain pattern, you can see that original noise is still from the plate, but it's from a part that matches that laptop better. So now that I move that over there, you can see that's working much, much easier. It's much more invisible to my eye than it was without it. So without it, you can see that logo in the noise, and with it gammaed up, it's gone. So if we take a look at this result now, and I look at it normally, it's much, much cleaner. So that's basically it. So the idea is we do a subtraction first. We're taking the original linear image, subtracting the noise reduced image. I'm using a merge, using what I'm calling a front source technique to offset the foreground here to a different section. And then I'm adding the grain back on, and the order here really doesn't matter, but I'm taking the cleanup with the noise, and then we've got a result. Now, we actually also need to take our output here, and we're going to take this on out to go to the color page. But this should stand up really well to scrutiny. If you want to increase contrast, you lower the gamma, increase the gain, when this needs to be color graded later on. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you want the equivalent of Nuke's DOS grain for DaVinci Resolve Fusion for regraining instead of this technique, there's a tutorial I have linked that talks all about it. If you're new to the channel, by the way, my name is Chadwick. This is Creative Video Tips, where I teach all things DaVinci Resolve. I know this sort of stuff because I'm actually a working DaVinci Resolve Fusion finishing artist here in New York. So I actually finish commercials for a living. But my favorite thing is teaching you. And because there's so much more to learn, I'll see you in the next video.